have been praying. You have been rebuking. You have been fasting. And still, something is not shifting. What if the problem is not that you are not fighting hard enough? What if the problem is that you have been fighting the wrong war, in the wrong way, with the wrong weapons? Spiritual warfare is real. The Bible makes that clear. But most believers have been taught an incomplete version of it. And that incomplete picture is costing them their peace, their breakthrough, and their spiritual authority. What you are about to hear may challenge everything you thought you knew about how this battle is actually won. The first thing most Christians get wrong is the identity of their enemy. When tension rises in your marriage, your first instinct is to fight your spouse. When a colleague undermines you at work, the anger lands on them. When a family member wounds you, they become the target. But Paul writes in Ephesians chapter 6 verse 12, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places." Your husband is not your enemy. Your co-worker is not your enemy. Your own past is not your enemy. The enemy is a spiritual force using those situations and those people as entry points. The moment you redirect your anger, your energy, and your warfare toward the right target, everything changes. You stop fighting the person being used and start addressing the power doing the using. That single shift is the beginning of real spiritual authority. The second error is this: most believers go to war unprotected. There is a common image of spiritual warfare that looks like loud, intense, aggressive confrontation, binding, rebuking, declaring, commanding. And while bold intercession has its place, none of it is effective if the foundation is not in place first. Look closely at Ephesians 6 again. Paul does not begin with the sword. He begins with the belt of truth, then the breastplate of righteousness, then the shield of faith. The sword, the offensive weapon, comes last. Think of it this way: a soldier who runs onto a battlefield without his armor is not brave. He is exposed, and an exposed soldier is an ineffective one. Many believers are fighting from a place of spiritual nakedness. No settled identity in God, no daily walk with the Word, no accountability. And they wonder why the same attacks keep landing. The armor of God is not optional equipment. It is the prerequisite for everything else. Here is a truth that will reframe how you see your ordinary days. Spiritual warfare is not only what happens on your knees at midnight. It is what you choose at 7 in the morning. It is the conversation you decide not to have, the grudge you release, the media you stop consuming, the thought you refuse to let stay. James 4 verse 7 says, "Submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you." Notice the order: submission first, then resistance. Most people flip it. They try to resist the enemy without first submitting themselves to God. And so the resistance has no foundation beneath it. Your prayer life, your thought life, your choices, these are not just disciplines. They are strategic. Every act of obedience is an act of warfare. Every boundary you maintain is a wall the enemy cannot cross. Holiness is not a restriction. Holiness is a weapon. Of all the front lines in spiritual warfare, none is more contested than the one inside your own head. The enemy does not need to destroy your life if he can simply corrupt how you think about it. Fear is a stronghold. Shame is a stronghold. The voice that tells you God has forgotten you, that is a stronghold. 2 Corinthians 10 verses 4 and 5 say, "The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments, and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ." Strongholds are not built overnight. They are built through repeated agreement with lies. And they are torn down the same slow, consistent way, through the daily renewal of your mind in the truth of Scripture. The thought that keeps returning uninvited, the narrative that runs on repeat, that is the territory the enemy is occupying. You do not just rebuke a stronghold, you replace it, truth by truth, day by day. The fifth truth is perhaps the most counterintuitive of all. In 2 Chronicles 20, King Jehoshaphat faced an overwhelming enemy coalition, armies larger than anything his forces could handle. What did God instruct him to do? He sent the worshippers out first, not the swordsmen, the worshippers. And as they began to sing and praise, the Bible records that the enemy armies turned on each other and destroyed themselves. Not one Israelite soldier had to fight. Praise is not a warm-up to warfare. Praise is warfare. When you lift your voice in genuine worship, especially when everything inside you wants to panic, you are not being passive. You are repositioning yourself in the spiritual dimension. You are declaring the outcome before you see it. You are shifting the atmosphere. The enemy cannot occupy a space that is saturated with authentic praise. He has no authority in the presence of a surrendered, worshiping heart. Most believers are not losing because they lack faith. They are losing because they lack strategy. The enemy is not more powerful than you. He is simply more patient, more methodical, and he counts on you continuing to fight the wrong war. But now, you know. Stop fighting people. Put on your armor first. Let your daily life be your declaration. Guard the territory of your mind. And when the pressure is greatest, worship. That is how this war is actually won. If this message opened your eyes, take a moment to reflect on where you have been fighting incorrectly and realign with God's truth. Drop a comment below and tell me which of these areas you are reviewing personally. I read every response. Subscribe, for there is much more deep biblical truths like this to come, and share this with someone who needs clarity in their spiritual walk.